Hey guys, this is a game from locals from this past weekend. I am on the left playing Frog Heroes, and my opponent is on the right playing Norleras Vayu. What happened was we finished our match a little bit early and had some time left over in the round, so we decided to play an extra game and record it. Unfortunately, this is not a full match, it's just a single game, but I thought the Norleras Vayu deck was fucking sick, not gonna lie. It's a sick deck, and I really wanted to record some content with that deck, so this is that. I am going first. I won the die roll, so I start off with a Substitute into Swap Frog play. I think I have a Threatening Roar in my hand right here, but I decided to hold it. Maybe I should have set it in case I do get Norleras, but I decided to take it back and just hold it because I want my Treeborn to come back. I think I have a Monarch in my hand, so that was my thought process there, and I felt pretty comfortable. I felt pretty confident that I wasn't going to die in one turn here, so I decided to hold the T-Roar. Okay, so they open up Solar Recharge and Charge of the Light Brigade, which is a dope opening. I remember in the actual tournament match we played, in the first game, my opponent opened, or within the first turn, they hit Trade-In, Solar Recharge, Charge of the Light Brigade, Allure, and Foolish Burial, all within the first turn, and they were like really deep in their deck. So the deck seemed super turbo. From my point of view, it seemed, surprisingly consistent. So it was a super sick deck. I will say that DD Crow is definitely MVP against that deck, though. So I think that helped me win one of my games in the actual match against them. I also like that my opponent plays Elfin. I think that's a super cool card. Being able to go into Armor Master right away and skip over Armed Wing. So they're basically playing like a typical Vayu Turbo deck right now, making a single first turn and trying to go for like 4K plus damage. I do end up taking that to the face, so I think that's like 4,200 damage right there. But I'm chilling because I still have the Threatening Roar and Treeborn's coming back. But otherwise, it's a very strong opening start for my opponent there, except for the fact that the Norleras deck doesn't really play too much back row. That's the only thing that is I feel like is lacking a little bit in the protection department. It's like a super aggro deck. So I do have the Caius, which is like I feel like frogs just have a pretty good matchup against this Norleras deck, since you have Treeborn coming back every turn. So even if they do Norleras you, you kind of have the Treeborn just to block attacks, and as long as you don't die, like you drop Battle Fader or Threatening Roar, like an Econ plus Caius can just like out their entire board, right? Like right there, if I had Econ as well, I could just take the Armor Master, tribute it, banish the Caius or banish the face down, and attack over the other monster. So my gut reaction is that frogs actually have a pretty solid matchup against this deck. So here's where I set the Threatening Roar and leave the Swap Frog up. My thought process right here is I'm going to protect this Swap Frog. Treeborn's going to come back. I'm going to tribute for Caius and then bounce back the Caius and do a little bit of a loop. And that kind of ends up working out. So they flip this Raikou, hitting the back row. I think right here the move is probably just to hit the Swap Frog and assume that the back row is chainable if you're playing as frogs. But I don't think that my opponent is super familiar with all the different back row that could be played in this frog deck. So they hit the back row, that's usually the move with Raikou, right? To hit the back row, I think. But they can't out the Swap Frog. So in this case, I think hitting the Swap Frog was probably better, because now I'm going to loop this Caius. So hit their face down with Caius and then attack, and then I get to bounce the Caius back, which is pretty nasty. Attack with the Caius first, because you don't want to attack directly with Caius in case they have Gores. You want to attack directly with the Swap Frog. And then main phase 2, bounce the Caius back to my hand. I'm feeling pretty good. I can summon it again next turn. But my opponent hits me. What did they hit me with? Okay, never mind. They Foolish Burial first. Yeah, I like this deck a lot. This deck is just so cool. I actually really want to build this deck. It's just a really cool deck. Yeah, and they hit me with a really Yeah, they hit me with card destruction. I think they only draw for 2, but I draw for 5. They got rid of the Caius, but maybe you saw I drew into a Ryza, and I also drew into Battle Fader. They're trying to go super ham here. They have Dark Creator. They definitely have more than 5 darks in their grave at this point in the game. But they're trying to go super ham here because my life points, I'm within lethal range, so I think in this case, like, both of us are not super familiar with each other's decks, so it's kind of hard to OTK Frog since they're on multiple Battle Faders, but they're going super ham right here, and I do believe I have the Battle Fader, so I'm chilling. Yeah. Okay, so they use Grepher's effect to dump Sirocco, and then they're gonna make another Synchro, I think Armed Wing probably. And they're just trying to go for game at this point. And if their Dark Creator lives, then they're getting, free advantage every turn. So they're like in a pretty good spot. But again, I think Frogs just have naturally a pretty solid matchup against this kind of deck. All right, so I take that damage, but then I have to Battle Fader right here, which is huge. I think my opponent was not expecting that, but I mean, if I card D and draw for 5 and you haven't seen Battle Fader yet, then there's a pretty good chance, or at least you should take into account that the Frog player might have Battle Fader. Bring back the Streetborn, and I do have a second Caius in my hand. I think I have a Caius and a Ryza. And here I make a little bit of misplay. I'm checking their grave because I remember they had a Plague Spreader, they milled it. So I'm like, okay, that kind of influences what I want to leave on the field. So I'm definitely going to summon this Caius no matter what, and probably banish Dark Creator. And then I have to choose whether I want the Armed Wing or the Dark Grepher to live. And I think this is definitely a misplay. I decide to kill first of all, they're top decking. They have no cards in their hand. So if they want to summon Plague, they're gonna have to top deck whatever they draw. So I attack over the Armed Wing and leave the Grepher, and I think this is definitely a misplay because if they top deck a Dark or they top deck a Vayu, they can pitch it to put Vayu in the grave and then make an Armor Master with the Armed Wing that I just killed, and they can save their Plague for a future turn. Whereas if I kill the Grepher, yes, they get to make a level 8 with Plague, but I shouldn't really be afraid of level 8. Like, the best level 8 they can make right here, like, I don't know, they would make like Thought Ruler or Dark End Dragon, and neither of those cards are a problem because I have the Treeborn and the Ryza in my hand. But instead, I let him make this Goyo, which I was thinking of, but in hindsight, I'm like, okay, that was definitely not the right play to let them make the Goyo. I should have just let them make a level 8 instead. But yeah, this is just a fun game. So, what do we do here? I forget what I'm thinking about exactly. I know I have a Ryza in my hand. I think I'm saving it. Oh, I have another Caius. Okay, sorry. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I see. So, is this my third Caius? Yeah, I think this is my third Caius. Damn, I got really lucky with all these Monarchs. Yes, I had another Caius. Oh, okay, that's what happened. Shoot. I forgot that he had a Necrogardener in the grave. I banished the Goyo and tried to attack over the Caius, but my opponent had a Necrogardener, which I think they probably could have used a little bit earlier, maybe. But I think we both forgot about it. They protect the Caius and crash over my Caius. But like I said, luckily I have a Rise. I just had like all 4. I'm only playing 4 Monarchs in this deck, and I drew all the Monarchs, so that's pretty sacky. But that's the game. It was a pretty close game, though.